Alright, so parasitism, like I said, is one of our main focus. Now, for this mode of relationship to occur, the host and the parasite, there are several relationships, and due to the interaction between the host and the parasite, it has profound effects. Some of either of them undergo several adaptations physiologically, morphologically, in order to make sure that this relationship occurs. And most of the times, or is real that the host either become diseased or die off due to the interaction between them. So from here now, we look at the ways through which parasites can harm their host. The ways through which parasites can harm their host. Like I said, that it's either they are diseased or they die off. Now the number one way is parasites deprive or compete with host nutrients, e.g. amino acid. Now, in some relationship or in parasitism, you see parasites competing for nutrients. And when an organism lacks some kind of nutrients, e.g. amino acid, take for instance, might bring a lot of diseases or even death. So the second one, some parasites feed on host blood tissues or fluids. Some parasites feed on host blood tissues or fluid. The third one, some parasites destroy host tissues. The fourth one, some inflict mechanical injury, e.g. boring of holes into the host body. Let me say some parasites that are categorized under piercing and sucking. Maybe when they try to pierce the host body, they leave injuries on the host body. And finally, some cell and tissue parasites produce tissue changes. Alright, we'll be looking at the origin of parasites and the adaptations. Now, we cannot specifically point out the origin of parasites. The only thing we can suggest is their adaptations. The goal of every parasite is to multiply their progeny, to reproduce and to increase in number. Now, there are several characteristics that most of these parasites they are put in place for them to survive their host and increase their progeny. They undergo several adaptations, and the two types of adaptation we can see here is physiological adaptations and morphological adaptations. Now, under physiological adaptations, these are pre-acquired characteristics that will enable a parasite to live, survive, and reproduce within a host. So we'll look at some physiological adaptations of parasites. The first one is the ability of parasite to adjust or survive host high osmotic medium. Number two is the ability to invade host enzymic activities. Some parasites can invade host enzymic activity. Number three, anaerobic mode of life. Anaerobic mode of life. There are some places, take for instance, in the intestine of humans, that have low oxygen content, and most parasites can live there comfortably. They can survive there, they can live there and reproduce. And finally, the ability of these parasites to mimic or invade host immune systems. So I want us to note these things and know them by heart. So looking at morphological adaptations, we will look into two categories that are related but opposite. The first one is progressive specialization and the regressive elimination of specialization. Some parasites retain some structures that will help them in their mode of life, and as well eliminate some. They do away with some. So, for progressive specialization, most parasites, the locomotory organs are either differentiated into organs of attachment. Some parasites, for them to survive, they either differentiate the organs of attachment, the organs of locomotion, into organs of attachment, and the case of the hooks of tapeworms. Now, for regressive elimination of specialization, some structures may be lost or diminished in parasitic animals. Recall this, that for progressive specialization, locomotory organs are either differentiated into organs of attachment. An example of that is the attachment organs of hookworm, of tapeworms. Now, for regressive elimination or specialization, some structures may be lost or diminished in parasitic animals. And a typical example of this is loss of wings of fleas and lice. You know, most often, or fleas or lice, they do away with their wings because it doesn't support their parasitic life. Another example is the sensory structure of amphids. You know, the sensory structures known as amphids of nematodes are reduced in sizes. So, for these nematodes, this amphib, the sensory structure is greatly reduced for it to survive and live as a parasite. So, that is the origins and the adaptations of parasites. Thank you.